In this corner, the DC Multiverse Gold Label Walmart exclusive Shazam, and in this corner, Shazam from the all-new movie Fury of the Gods. Which Billy Batson is best? Place your bets, it's time for Comic vs. Movie. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting off with the packaging, and these two are so similar you might think it isn't worth talking about, but that's not the case. Looking at the movie version, we can see this is DC Multiverse, DC Shazam, Fury of the Gods Shazam. And then on the side, we see this is the Shazam, Fury of the Gods Shazam from Shazam, Fury of the Gods. By contrast, the comic version is a bit cleaner and more simple. Neat and clean DC Multiverse Shazam here, and on the side this one is simply DC Multiverse Shazam from DC Rebirth. Even the artwork on the back makes a difference. For Fury of the Gods, we get this line art caricature of Shazam, whereas from the comic version we get some beautifully painted comic art that has a lot of personality. I'm not saying either one of these is bad, but one of them does suffer from being a bit busy. And hey, this one has a gold label, which always adds a bit of razzle-dazzle. For packaging, this round goes to comic. Moving on to presentation, the comic version stands at just under 7¼ inches. The movie version stands at 7 on the dot. I guess as box office isn't the only thing coming up short. The comic version is mostly just reuse of the Endless Winter Black Adam. The only new parts are the head and cape. Looking at this head, there's a certain smugness I appreciate. Of course, I'd like it a lot more if he wasn't cross-eyed. The head in the movie version is a perfect likeness of Zachary Levi. Without a doubt, it's the best actor likeness I've seen McFarlane Toys do. Really makes the upcoming Flash figure sting that much more. For real though, look at all the detail just in the hair. Moving on down, this figure is a 100% new sculpt. That said, both are noteworthy for their very fine textured details. We can see some fine knitting and hidden lightning bolts on the comic version, and admittedly a similar one on the movie. One of the biggest differences is a lightning bolt logo. On the comic version, it's a much larger piece that literally hangs off of the torso. The movie version is much smaller and more manageable. It makes me feel like something you'd see out of The Great Gatsby. I also like the brighter gold of the movie a bit more than the duller gold of the comic. Back to the comic, and here's that belt. And as we can see, the movie version is very similar. One thing the movie version has that the comic doesn't is extra painted detail for the sides. Long as we're here, here's the back of the movie version and the back of the comic version. And while we're back here, just look at how big and flowing that cape is. There's a sculpted hood, but you can't put it up, and a second layer sculpted in as well. One thing I will say about the comic cape is that it's extremely thick and heavy. By contrast, the movie cape is much more flexible, and it has some extra detail around the trim. All the way down, the movie version has silver and gold boots. I really love the detail in there. The comic version is just straight gold, but has some pretty nice detail too. Moving back up, and there's also silver in the movie version's gauntlets. Despite being mostly a repaint, the comic version is solid and does mostly feel like Shazam stepped right out of the page, but again, it is mainly just reuse. And while your mileage might vary, I really dislike the dangling logo. By contrast, the movie version's a 100% new sculpt, and it's the spitting image of Zachary Levi. For presentation, this round goes to movie. Moving on to posability, and the comic version has an extra joint in his neck. We have the usual dumbbell at the base of the skull, but there's a ball joint at the base of the neck. This allows for a little extra forward and back, and a little extra tilt. That said, even without that joint, the movie version gets even more tilt, though up is comparable, and so is down. Moving down, movie can raise his arm up 90 degrees. Comic just a little bit more so. They both get forward and back of the rotator cuff, but the movie version is cut much deeper and is a lot more functional. That said, both figures have bicep swivel, double jointed elbow with a similar bend, and whereas the comic version has more obvious wrist balls, the movie versions are much better integrated. Moving to the middle, and both Shazams have a diaphragm and a dumbbell waist. Using both, they can arch back this far, with the movie version clearly having the edge, and they can hunch forward this far, which again I think the movie version is slightly better. That said, the movie version can only kick this high and split this wide, whereas the comic version can kick this high and split this wide. Both figures have twist in the hip, with the movie version being notably better. Both have double jointed knees, with the comic version being better. Both have toe articulation and ankles that can swivel, hinge, and pivot. As is often the case, there are some things that the comic version version does better, and there are certain things that the movie version does better. Neither is significantly better or worse than the other, so for posability, I'm calling this round a draw. Moving on to playability, and both figures have display stands, and both figures have trading cards. If you want to read the comic version, pause here, and if you want to read the exact same thing for the movie, pause here. Based on this opening sentence that says that Billy Batson's parents died when he was a baby, clearly McFarlane Toys did not watch the movie. They did, however, give him a pair of lightning effects. At first I thought they were reuse, but I couldn't find a match in any of the lightning bolts I have. They look pretty cool, but I will say they're also pretty loose. The comic version comes with some lightning as well. Not surprisingly, these are reused from Black Adam. Additionally, the comic version comes preloaded with a pair of fists, but he also comes with a pair of comically oversized open hands. As for the movie version, he also has a pair of fists and a pair of flying hands. In terms of accessories, these two are clearly evenly matched, but playability is also about how well your figure plays with others. For my only other Shazam figure, and here we have DC Essentials. That said, for another Captain Marvel, and here we have Marvel Select. As we await the new and improved Fury of the Gods Wonder Woman, here we have the 1984 one, and as long as we're here, we might as well take a look at Superman, Batman, and that other red-suited hero with a lightning bolt, but for a darker suited hero with a lightning bolt, and here we have the Dwayne Johnson version of Black Adam. I'm not a hero. Oh, believe me, Dwayne. We know. That said, here's the Endless Winter version that the comic Shazam shares a body with, and also Page Punchers. That said, while we're on the subject of Black Adam, here's the movie version of Dr. Fate, and the Injustice 2 version. For a few more classic-style heroes, and here we have Martian Manhunter, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, and the Atom. And for the Justice League, here we have Superman from Action Comics 1000, Superman from Hush, pretty sure that he and the comic Shazam have the same hands, Three Jokers Batman, Rebirth Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, the Wonder Woman designed by Todd McFarlane, the DC Collectibles New 52 Wonder Woman, and then for a couple of electrifying heroes from the House of Ideas, here we have the Marvel Select Thor and the Marvel Select Storm. For a relative scale comparison, here's Shazam with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. Of course, one thing I know you're interested in are head swaps. While I can't imagine a lot of you will do this one, it does remind me a lot more of his costume from the first movie. Bear in mind though that the neck will need to be repainted. All the way around, and this would need to be repainted as well. Definitely could be argued that the head's too big for this body, which is a shame because I do like this body better. That said, just for giggles, I decided to try out Superman from Red Sun. The proportions work a little bit better. It would, however, make for a much grimmer version of the character. That said, for anyone bothered by the gigantic comic book hands, you can switch them out for the movie. Because of their matching accessories, you might think that this round is another draw, but this round really came down to the comparisons. With no other figures announced but Wonder Woman and a terrible box office return almost guaranteeing that this is the end of the road, Comic Shazam simply has more other characters to play with. For playability, this round goes to Comic. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. If you were lucky enough to get the gold label version in store, it was only about $20. On the aftermarket, however, it ranges from $35 to $45 plus shipping. The movie version, however, is a wide release and readily available at retail right now. For price, this round goes to movie, making this battle a tie. That said, if you want my 2 cents on the movie, I thought it was a lot of fun and definitely worth a watch. Some of the criticisms I've heard that Zachary Levi acts a bit too childlike are valid, but the rest of the cast is solid and the group I saw it with had a lot of laughs. The fact that there's so little toy support for this movie, especially from Spin Master, is very telling. It seems to me that this film was not only expected to fail, but maybe even set up to. Hopefully we can all agree that it was at least better than this. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.